Hi, I'm Akilara.
And I'm Rohan Nahar.
Welcome to The Long Take. This week we're discussing Payal Kapadia's All We Imagine Is Light, her fiction feature length debut, which has been traveling the international sort of film circuit, then released, and is now finally on streaming platforms. Yeah. What do you think of this movie?
Yeah, I really liked it. I guess that's unsurprising because basically everybody likes it.
Hmm.
But yeah, an unusual kind of movie from our country. We don't often see something this refined and with a voice.
Yeah.
So
And the fact that, like as I mentioned, she's breaking her leg. It's surprising that it's not like that was her first movie in a sense, because the previous one was like a documentary. Which makes it even more sort of like surprising that you have such a defined approach of like what you want to execute.
obviously the influences are pretty strong, and
Mm.
there is a sense that she'll find her own unique voice,
Mm.
probably as she goes along, because this is very much, we've spoken about first films before, and this is very much a first film.
Mm.
It feels like it you can sense that the film student in her,
Mm.
bursting out from just the early voiceover,
Yeah, we can even sense
the
her like
the
her docu spirit, right? Like the movie begins like a documentary. It does not begin like with our protagonist.
Yeah, which is interesting because it also, the documentary style opening is about the fourth character of this movie, right? Because there are
Mm.
three humans and one city,
Yeah.
and there is sort of a love-hate relationship that she seems to have with the city of Mumbai, right?
Mm. Which like who doesn't, right?
I mean, a lot of people romanticize the city,
It
especially in
they
cinema.
still like at some level do like hate it. It's just like I think they try to cover it up by like romanticizing. I think which is like what she is explicitly like not in for, right? She's not going to use any of the Bombay so-called quote unquote elements that have been used over like 5-6 decades to romanticize the city. Instead, like she uses them for how like real people like feel them or are affected by them. Like so when it's not like she's gonna use rain as like a moment to convey romance. No, it's gonna be like either there's water logging in someone's house or someone's rushing to take clothes off the clothesline.
Yeah, there is no, I mean, in fact, several characters kind of talk about how dehumanized they feel in the city,
Mm.
right? Because you're
Yeah.
just like part of the bheed. And
Yeah.
once you've kind of outlived your usefulness, it's time for you to be put out to pasture, right? Which is what
Mm.
the Chaya Kadam character is experiencing.
Mm.
And to a degree, the Kani Kusruti character and the Divya Prabha character, they very easily could be headed in the same direction, right? But it's them realizing in real time that this is probably what's in store for us, and we can make choices to kind of avoid this just fading into like oblivion, which is kind of like sad. And there is like this melancholy throughout the movie.
Yeah. And I think that's it's very deliberate into it. You have to have these sort of working class characters, right? Because the city like
Mhm.
absolutely needs them. Without them they could not function, be it nurses, be it like people working like in other sort of public cleaning departments or like just like offices and like government buildings and stuff like. But it is trying so hard at the same time, the city, to like, as you said, push them either to oblivion or like literally like outside of its boundaries, right? Like you please do not live around us.
Yeah, which is the interesting thing, right? Because we've seen movies about working class people living in Bombay. And
Mm.
we've seen like mainstream movies about working class people in Bombay. We've seen Amitabh Bachchan movies. We've seen like Slumdog Millionaire. And
Yeah.
invariably they're about like, oh, the spirit. Let's celebrate the
Fighting
spirit
the
of
system
these.
or spirit.
Yeah. But this one is like, no, you're all screwed. This city is going to eat you up alive and like spit you out. And at some point, you kind of need to realize like pros and cons, right? Like what's worth it and what isn't. Like, because Chaya Kadam has sacrificed her entire life for whatever the dream
Yeah. And that's
didn't
like
work
the
out.
bigger version of it, right? Like that's the obvious one. Like this is how the city treats you. Like that's like the in your face version. And then there are the smaller things you get, right? From here and there from like say Anu's relationship. Like she's not literally able to like spend time with her boyfriend because of the city multiple times.
Yeah, and for multiple reasons, right? एक तो
Yeah.
है कि the culture,
Yeah.
and then there's something more like overt, which is like, where will she go? She shares a house with Prabha.
Yeah, and she
It's
can barely pay
she
for
has
that one.
yeah, and she has nowhere to go. And these are just like everyday obstacles in the lives of so many people. And the movie isn't kind of being like, oh, look at the spirit of this person. No, it's just observing her. Like she's going about her life. She's doing what she can. She still has the youthful kind of desire to follow her instincts, which to a degree the other two characters have had drained out of them, right?
Yeah.
For different reasons. And she's very good in the role. Like she's just, I felt like sort of like star making sort of performance, right? Because she kind of pops.
Yeah, I think it's very like they all have like such distinct places to occupy in the movie. You know, it never feels like they're trading or stop stepping on each other's sort of territories. In some ways, that you're getting a peek into a different world with each sort of character, and it really sort of helps them to have this sort of almost like oral motif, which is like linked to each character as well.
Yeah. They also have like, via these three characters, you get like three different perspectives at not only life, but also, the female experience and also the city, right? You're viewing how differently three women in perhaps similar like socioeconomics like segments can experience life.
Yeah.
And they're all like, it's very like minimalistic, the movie, but like so much is conveyed via just the performance and the way that she kind of constructs scenes.
Yeah. So there's like this
Even
one shot sometimes thing, staging like even like 20-second shot in that scene where Prabha is hugging that rice cooker. I think that scene is like it doesn't even come when she wakes up in the night and she starts reading the poems that's given by the doctor. Like you would expect that to be put in there. No, it's given its own sort of space few minutes later when she's just like mopping up the water in the house and then it happens. But like that stays with you. Like that scene has still stays with me despite having seen this movie like month ago in theater.
Yeah, like similarly, like just the forbidden romance is so like in the mood for love, right?
Yeah.
The subplot with the doctor,
Yeah.
it's that it's going to go nowhere. And there is so much like yearning from both sides. Like this woman who's been kind of neglected, and so like tragically neglected. And who knows what the doctor has been through, but he's also clearly very alone, right? Uh, and they meet like three or four times, and then it's so rich, like that whole relationship. But it's going to go nowhere. And to a degree, she's also like judging Anu for what she's doing secretly. So there's that kind of layer to their dynamic. And so much of it is just done so simply, right? Like that bridgewala scene, I still
Yeah.
remember, where they meet and then it's like they're doing something naughty by just like standing next to each other and talking. And then
Yeah, which is why when like
other
some
nurses,
people, yeah, exactly, yeah, what we're about to mention, like when they walk, she like takes a few steps back.
yeah. And it's like similarly, like I watched this movie months ago and it's the staying power of it is quite remarkable, right? Because like we forget things that we've done yesterday, but we remember like tiny nuances, like just like you mentioned, the small step back that she takes, which just shows how clear the vision was with this film. Um, it's sort
Yeah,
of
when
movie.
the movie wants to like emphasize on something, that it's able to use even like 2 to 4 seconds to convey how important that moment is. Like it doesn't have to be like there are big moments in this movie, like Prabha and Parvati like standing in front of that amazing constructed billboard and then smashing it with like rocks. Like
Yeah.
that scene is built to be remembered.
Mm.
Um, but then as we have spoken about, like there are these tiny moments which are like crafted with such thought that they stay with you.
Even the final shot, it's like one of those memorable final shots, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
it's like one of those like moonlight level shots.
huh. Or which could very easily be an influence also, right? Uh,
Yeah,
but yeah, it's almost static, the shot.
yeah.
And it's just like sounds and images and barely any movement, but then so much is happening, right? There's such a sense of like warmth in that moment.
Mm.
And the movie needs it because for so long there's like it feels like the characters, the movie itself was restrained emotionally.
Mm.
And in those final like few seconds, there's like a release of sorts, and not like distancing itself from the style that they'd already established. It's still adhering to that style, but then there is like a
Yeah.
minor tweak that kind of just changes the mood. And that's a sign of a steady filmmaker, like someone who knows exactly what to do.
Yeah. I mean, the change in mood is like almost like sort of unexpected and massive, right? Like when the shift comes from leaving the city and suddenly they're in the outskirts. Like first, like she cleverly uses like colors. Like suddenly all the blues are ditched and we have now greens and browns and stuff. So that conveys like the shift in like scenery that we're going to experience. And then obviously like as you've spoken about, the expanse of just like space.
Yeah, what did you make of the abandonment of Mumbai midway through this movie? Because it is a drastic kind
I
of.
think it was like, yeah, I think it almost speaks to like what these, as we've spoken about, like these three women, different generations, but got in a sort of similar sort of tragedies here and there.
Mm,
Uh, and I think getting away from the city physically and like, in some level, like almost like spiritually sort of detaches them from the burdens the city had put on them and able to like, which like one scene literally like gives us that of them, like that whole
yep.
dancing scene physically conveys that freedom. But then the rest of it as well, I think they're able to now see things in another light almost, right? Which is why, as you mentioned, Prabha was judging Anu, like semi judging her in the city about the relationship. But then she comes to
Mm.
evolve. And then even though she spots him, her having sex, like now she's seeing that in another light, which I feel like is almost like the distance from the city is like letting them have that sort of
Mm.
perspective.
But also partially it's like a temporary relief, right? Because at some
Yeah.
point they have to go back. Uh,
Yeah.
and that kind of makes it very bittersweet, which is like the overwhelming kind of
Mm.
emotion that this movie leaves you with, right? Uh, it's
Mm.
just this vicious cycle, and there are moments of respite, and these people have at least identified that this one, the moment that we are in right now, needs to be kind of savored, because who knows. um yeah, there's a lot happening in this movie, but like uh a lot happening outside of it also. It's apparently too international for our whatever jury people.
I think that's just like a way to like discard things that you don't want to talk about. Like, it's a cheap like tactic or like way to just like put something down,
Which is weird, right? Because
which is like, yeah. And we've always like known that, right? Like, we'll never hear it from someone in the industry, but off camera and off the mic, people will tell you that if things are successful in the West, Bollywood is snobbish enough to be like, हाँ तुम्हें वहाँ success मिल रहा है ना, तुम्हें यहाँ से क्या चाहिए recognition.
yeah, I mean, multiple things, right? Firstly, why do you want to put it down? Like, what are the weird politics at play?
Yeah.
And like, how much did Amir Khan pay you? All of those things.
How should like Geo pay you?
Yeah, exactly. Did you not want to offend Mukesh Bhai? But yeah, one of the most baffling decisions to not, because this movie is like nomination to pakka hai in a couple of categories.
Yeah. Which is why, like, I'm actually, in some regard, I'm actually pleased because the movie is succeeding despite that.
Despite
It's
that,
not like, it needed that slot to like get nominated. No, she's getting nominated. Payal Kapadia, the movie getting nominated on itself, right? And like that would be the biggest like thing is like the movie just even outside of the foreign language film category, which like anyway is restrictive. We have had those debates about the Oscars. If it just breaks out on its own, like uh, like Parasite or something, right? Just gets a nomination in some categories. That's the achievement, right? Like, then it doesn't matter if Indian some Bude uncle did care not care for it or what.
yeah, doing it on its own terms, and also like
And I think the other thing which are like surprising, is that like no one has, or at least not publicly, told us that Payal Kapadia is getting some like deal or something. Right? This is what how you the thing goes in Hollywood. Like if you do something as a young filmmaker who like your first fiction feature or whatever, even your first feature is like really good, you start getting like calls from people, you get like things lined up, you know, you're at least the next 2-3 years set. Uh, I don't know what Payal Kapadia is doing next. Like nobody knows. Like it does. I'm not sure if the industry wants her, or if she's gonna have to just like keep making these
Yeah.
Indo-European
Because
co-productions.
also the thing is that the white people have found out that she was screwed over, and that's making them support the movie even more.
Yeah,
Like also they've heard
yeah, they love a underdog. This is why like
and similarly, right? Because they've also kind of become aware that she protested against the government and got like slapped with a lawsuit. And it's a kind of movie that we rarely see. I can't even remember the last time we spoke about something like this on the podcast. Like, so that should just tell us to kind of like the three characters savor this moment because temporary hai, kal ko khatam ho jayega.
there's a blip in the time space continuity.
Yeah, but a welcome one.
Like if you did not get this episode audience, you would have got an opposite episode on Singham again. So there you go. That says it all.
Yeah, Singham again or Bhulbulaiya 3 or like whatever the hell nonsense.
That we've done for like the other 80 weeks.
But this has been a good year. You know, we've had this, we've had Girls Will Be Girls, we had, which I actually liked a lot more than this one. And
Right.
Santosh, which is basically an Indian movie, but also in contention. Um, yeah, like, and you know, it's not like those fake, like I was thinking, do you remember that movie from like a couple of years ago called like Three of Us, which in a way was
Yeah.
similar because those characters kind of go out to the city and go to this thing and go on this journey, etc., etc., etc. But then that felt like a appropriation of what an art house indie is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know, at some level it feels manufactured.
Correct.
How to
I
explain?
think we're on the same page. It lacked like an authenticity, I suppose, and and you can clearly tell like the difference in skill when you like watch this, you know. So yeah, this is a real deal.
Too bad the people don't see it. Or at least some people.
Yeah, those people don't matter.
Most people see it, thankfully. Except okay. That's all for this episode of The Long Take. If you can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Threads at The Long Take Pod, you can write to us at thelongtakepod@gmail.com. Please leave us a rating and a review wherever it's an episode, and we will see you next week. Thanks for listening.